Cyber Reapers! Hello, Cyber Reapers! So, tonight or today, whenever, wherever you are, I would like to talk to you about a book that I just read. And this one got to me quite a bit. So, I'm just gonna give you a heads up warning about both the book and also if you happen to hear any sort of lawnmower thing in the background, I should be able to edit it out, but just in case there's a little slight buzzing back there, don't worry about that. You're perfectly safe. It's just buzzing from lawn service that I did not realize was going to be there today. But yeah, because of the way that my events are set up over the next week, I figured that now was the best time to talk about this book. Because I wanted to make sure I had enough time to really talk about it. Especially because I'm a little worried about how to talk about it, I guess. Anyway, going into this right away though, I am going to say this video might not be for you, and that is completely understandable. I'm just gonna let you know that the book, its premise revolves around the idea of getting justice slash revenge for a sexual assault. And so I'm not going to describe details about the actual assault, but if any of this at any point starts to get to be too much, you can always click off the video. I don't want this to be an unsafe space, and I don't plan on talking super in-depth really about why this book got to me so much, just because I feel like that's a little too... I don't want to bog down the video with too many of my personal raw thoughts on this particular matter. So I'd like to invite you to consider your own feelings on this book and what this book talks about. Even if you don't read it, that's perfectly fine. I just want you to take care of yourself and your own, mental peace of mind and such. And, yeah. Alright, now that I've talked about that, let me get into the actual book itself, and also, my cat is here to meow. So in case you don't want to listen to my voice, you can listen to his. Usually I just try to wait until he's done, but I don't think he's gonna be done anytime soon. We'll see. He might join us. Anyhow, alright, as long as it's not too disruptive, I'll just keep going. So, I'm also gonna give just a slight heads up warning. I'm doing my best on the pronunciations. I could not find a consensus on how to say the author's name, and I want to get their name right. So I apologize if it's not, because I'm unsure whether to flip the R in their name, and I'm also not sure exactly where the emphasis goes. In addition, I'm not sure if it's Louis or Louis for the title, because the book, here, I'll go ahead and put the name of it here with the cover and everything so that you can see for yourself. It's the Luis Ortega Survival Club. I always kind of put it in my head as Louis, but it could be Luis Ortega Survival Club. Either way, Luis Ortega. I'll probably just pick one name and stick with it. We'll see. This book is by Sonora Reyes. And again, I apologize if I'm getting the author's name wrong. I looked on their website. I tried to find an example of their name being spoken. I feel like that's one of the hardest things, though, when I'm looking into an author it said even as often as say their character names in book reviews and everything. So it's difficult sometimes to find a consensus on how exactly to say an author's name or one of their characters' names, so I hope that I'm doing well enough with that, and someone feel free to correct me if you know. But yeah. So, the Luis Ortega Survival Club by Sonora Reyes. That is the book I'm going to be talking about today. And yeah. So, for the premise of this book, the very first page, it starts right after our main character. Her name is Ariana, and I believe it is Ariana because she said it is not Ariana in the book. So it is Ariana with the hard R. I believe that's what she means. Ariana is our main character, and the very first page starts right after she experiences the sexual assault. The book does not go into any heavy detail about the actual what happened. In fact, it's very light on that subject, and I really appreciate that because it puts a lot of the focus on how it affected Ariana and how she has to figure out her own relationship with her mind and her body going forward, dealing with this trauma, rather than actually giving any sort of example or any sort of glorification or dramatization of sexual assault. Like you're just going into the aftermath, and I really appreciate that, because I think books sometimes run the risk of adding trauma in there for drama. Sorry, let me enunciate. Trauma, as in stuff that affects you really badly, is added into books sometimes for the sake of drama or escalating the situation and making readers care more. And I mean, that's completely fair, I think, in fiction in a lot of cases, but the way that it's handled sometimes can be a little bit iffy. For example, sexual assault in books. So I really appreciate that the author just went, nope, we're skipping right past that. We're just going into focusing in on Ariana and not on Luis Ortega. And that, by the way, like, he is the one who sexually assaulted Ariana. So yeah. And Ariana is understandably devastated. She feels violated and just all these really negative feelings about her own body and her own mind and her capabilities. Because just as like a heads up, of, I don't know why I said it that way, as a heads up. I feel like that's one of my transition words sometimes, or transition phrases. Anyway, so Ariana, like, part of the reason she feels really particularly bad about this, and even like mixing in guilt in there, although that is normal for someone who has experienced something so horrible like that. Ariana feels a mix of guilt though because she didn't actively say no, but she also did not say yes. She did not consent to what was happening, and she didn't like it. She didn't want that to happen. She didn't want to have sex. And so she feels like this mix of guilt over not saying no, and not being able to do anything and feeling helpless. And part of that part of her character that wraps in there is that she does not talk unless she is super comfortable around the person or the place that she's in. Or, I said that wrong. She doesn't feel comfortable enough to talk in most cases, except whenever she's around somebody she's really comfortable with, or she's like in an environment, in a place that she's really comfortable in. And so most of the time, like say at school, she just doesn't talk. Like, she might write down things at times or use her phone to write down things that she wants to say, but generally she just doesn't speak. And so, at first she thought, like, as she's recalling how Luis treated her leading up to these events, she recalls how he would cross her boundaries, specifically with, like, touch. Would just, he didn't seem to mind her not talking, and at first she thought that was a good thing, but on, like, looking back, she realized that was part of what he liked about her, that she just didn't say no. Like, that's not good. And it takes a while for her to really deconstruct in her head her idea of Luis and realizing, oh wow, he really just was treating me poorly this entire time, and because I craved connection with another person so much, I just went with it. And so, the aftermath is horrible socially for her, because now rumors spread around school that Ariana will have sex with anybody. And she doesn't know how that rumor got started, because she told Luis to not say anything to anyone, and she really just wanted to forget about it. She didn't want anybody to know that they had sex. But now everybody knows somehow, in some way. And now she's dealing with the aftermath of that, of everybody knowing, and she's experiencing unwanted touch from a lot of boys, and just people coming up to her thinking they know her intimately, and it's like, stay away, please. And I got so angry on her behalf throughout the entire book, but especially in those moments, and with how the school staff treated it, because let's just say there was an unwanted touch that happened and she retaliated by, slapping someone. But the school then punished her by giving her detention and didn't punish the boy or any of the boys that have been touching her without her consent. And when I say touching her without her consent, I mean in areas that they should not be touching. So, it's wild reading that and going just, like, knowing that this does happen, that this is how survivors are treated, and it's horrible. But yeah, I got so angry on her behalf. In many parts of the book, there was no way I could not root for her. I really wanted her. I experienced, anytime she experienced a win, I was just completely just on board cheering for her. Anytime she experienced a loss, I was angry and sad and confused, and just, the book was written so well to be able to, like, to just go along with the plot and just experience all the feelings in relation to what was going on in Ariana's life. And that just feels, it feels super powerful to experience a book like that. It's not one of those books where there's, like, major plot twists or anything that make you go, it's just a simple, it's life. It feels like life. And, yeah, I guess that's what I'll say about that. But where the title comes in is that, in this aftermath, when Ariana's being mistreated and such, an anonymous account online reaches out to Ariana and suggests, hey, you've been mistreated by Luis, just as a lot of people have, so how about we work together to get revenge on him? And so okay, let's do it. And it takes a little bit. I'm not going to explain. Because initially, Ariana was hesitant. She didn't really want to be part of this. But something happens that results in her going, no, I need revenge. So Ariana goes to this meeting, and it's a bunch of students, or it's a collection of students, about 5 of them in total. No, it is 5 of them in total, I remember now. And yeah, so there's 5 of them in total, and including Ariana. They show up and they talk about their experiences with Luis and how they want to maybe go about getting revenge on him. And at first it starts out as like pranks on him to get under his skin, to make him feel as like afraid as they do. And then it eventually gets closer to, no, we want to expose him for what he's done to everybody. And yeah, it amps up over time of what they plan to do and how they plan to enact it. And with each of them and their different like skill sets, like one of them is a robotics techie kind of person, another one is a dancer, another one is journalism. That's Ariana. She's interested in journalism, and just, yeah, all of them have something different that they contribute, to where they can kind of interact with each other, use each other's strengths to be able to get under Luis's skin. And so it's, yeah, I loved seeing that group form, because it was really a found family support group that I think has the kind of support that everybody needs, especially those who are going through something really, really difficult, you know? And it really helps when you are experiencing something in common, because they all had different... Luis affected all of them in different ways, but they all had that in common, that Luis mistreated them horribly. And another thing that I love is that eventually they get to a point where they go, you know what, we don't want us to be around each other just because of Luis. Let's stop talking about Luis. Let's play D&D. Let's go to each other's events. Let's have fun with each other. And I love that they get to evolve past their reason for forming initially, you know, that they get to grow past that and find true friendship with each other that is beyond just the idea of getting revenge on somebody who wronged all of them. Yeah, I love that so much, and each of the characters were, they felt individual to me, you know, and just also in terms of representation, pretty much all of them, yeah, 4 of the main characters were people of color, including the main character, who was also Latinx, or Latina, sorry, she, her. But yeah, and also, like, there are multiple queer characters, including the main character, and also her love interest, who I won't spoil that, even though I think it's kind of clear whenever you start reading the book who it is, but still. And I really love the love interest as well. She's super cool, she's super supportive, just the way that she is very respectful of Ariana's boundaries and her silence. Like, she'll even get, like, paper and something to write with for Ariana anytime they meet up. And so it just becomes normal for Ariana to not necessarily speak around this friend group, but they don't care. It's like, it's just part of how Ariana converses. So they're all good with it, as it should be, you know. And they're all actually really great with consent with each other as well. If somebody says no or stop, then the person will stop, you know. and they ask before touching each other, that kind of thing. And especially given what they've gone through with Luis, that just feels super healing for them and also for me reading it. So, yeah. And also, as I was like talking, I just realized I haven't actually mentioned that, sorry, thoughts are coming into my head telling me to speak them one at a time. Ariana. So like I mentioned that Ariana doesn't speak very often, and I believe it was explicitly said that that is selective mutism, and also she has autism. So that's another like big part of her, the way that she interacts with the world, and how she needs to stim. For example, when she said she did the hand flappy thing, I was going, oh my gosh, I've never read somebody who does the hand flappy thing. I don't know, usually I do that with my hands down, but I'm trying to show the camera. But the thing of that, I'm trying not to hit the mic either, so it's usually a little faster than that, but it's just kind of a way of like getting out something. I don't know what it is, nerves, energy, but just sometimes I feel like doing that. Usually my arms are down though. But I think that's what she was referring to by the hand flappy thing that she was talking about, that she needed to do. And I was going, I feel so seen. And if you've seen the previous video, that book also had an autistic character. And yes, it does seem that I am diving down that route of reading more about autistic characters and going, I relate a lot to that. So I don't know. Especially because I'm still technically waiting for the diagnosis, or potential diagnosis. Yeah. I was fortunate that appointment was covered mostly by insurance. I've heard that diagnoses appointments can be super, super expensive. Anyway, sorry, off topic a little bit. But yeah, as I was reading, I noticed things about Ariana that felt very, autism coded. And sometimes she would say that it was related to her being autistic, and other times it was just kind of in there. But yeah, and it was neat too that another member of the group, of the survival club, Survivor, let me check the title on that. I know I just said it, but I'm forgetting already. Survival, yes, the Luis Ortega Survival Club. So another member of the Survival Club is also neurodivergent, but specifically he has ADHD, and yeah, so they're able to bond over the neurodivergence aspect of them. Yeah, it feels very personable coming from the book, having at least two neurodivergent characters who can bond over that. It just feels very real. So yeah, it felt very, all the book felt very, very visceral to me. Another aspect of that was Ariana's parents as well. I was just, those two gave me anxiety. Her mom and dad gave me anxiety, because they were not doing well. Ariana's mom cheated on her dad, and Ariana's mom cheated on Ariana's dad, to clarify. And it just, yeah, Ariana's mom was very clingy to Ariana, and sorry, my nose itches. Yeah, Ariana's mom is just very clingy to Ariana, and her dad is like hardly around, because he's usually working or he needs time away from Ariana's mom. And sound like they're trying to work things out, but just the entire book I'm going, I don't feel like they're gonna work out. I don't know. And I guess if that, I don't know, I feel like the book has a happy ending. I'm gonna say that. Just overall, I think it has a happy ending. So, it's, yeah, just but her parents interacting and the way they were, that felt too much. Yeah, especially because every time they were like, oh yeah, we're gonna work it out, we're trying with our relationship, I was going, something's gonna go wrong before it goes okay, if it goes okay, you know? Yeah, so, no. Anyhow, yeah, I think just generally I'm more used to the idea of whenever there's a big enough rift between parents or between, you know, two people who are married or together. I think I'll say married, because I feel like it is very specific to that in my mindset. I feel like whenever there's enough of a rift, even if they say, oh, we're working out, or we're trying to get back together, you know, I'm just kind of dubious. I'm going, I don't know if that, I'm not going to put my hope or invest my hope into that working out, you know? Yeah, and I won't say why, but I just have, there's personal feelings there that I'm going, nope. And this is the first book that actually activated those feelings and made me go, nope. I am not investing any sort of hope in these two working things out. But yeah. So just the stress that put on Ariana, I could understand, and I was going, oh, I am so sorry, you should not have to feel this. Also, in addition, her parents don't believe in therapy. Yeah, so don't worry, they grow. The parents grow as characters throughout the book, but it's just, at the beginning, it's so rough. And yeah, also keep in mind that Ariana hasn't told them what happened between her and Louis, so the parents just think of him as like, oh, Louis, yeah, you introduced us to him, how's that going? And she just does, like, Ariana does not want to talk about it. Yeah, so it's, yeah. But it's okay, there's plenty of character growth throughout the book, so, things end up okay with the parents. I'm just giving you a warning on that in case that's helpful to know. Yeah. And for Ariana herself, too, there's a decent amount of character growth she goes through. Not only with, like, healing her own trauma, but also just kind of feeling more herself, I think, and understanding who she wants to be and how she wants to act and stuff like that. There are certain things about her that don't change that I feel like, yes, that is good. But there's also other parts of her that she realizes, oh shoot, I made a mistake. And instead of brushing that off, she does her best to remedy it. Because, yeah, there was one particular thing that she did that I was going, oh no, I completely understand why she did it. And I even supported her through it, or I was going like, yes, awesome. But then, as it was happening, I was going, oh no, wait a minute. And she realized what was going on and how bad that could have turned out for somebody else. And so, for somebody else she cared about. So it just, but she apologized. She owned up to it. She knew that was, even though it was something that she felt determined to do and go through with, she realized afterwards, oh, I messed up. So it just felt very, I think I very much was on board with Ariana throughout the entire book. So that just very much connected me with the story. Being able to really connect with her and root for her the entire time really helped. Because you really see her at her darkest at the beginning. And it's hard not to sympathize. Alright, so just after reviewing my notes, I actually find that there's not much else I was gonna say. I think the only thing I just wanted to make sure to clarify is that, or to make sure I said, is that I very much went through this book very quickly. I devoured this book in 2 sittings, and just, the way I put it in my notes is, I needed this book. I'm so glad it exists. Because, it just felt so strong, felt so visceral, and also so healing. Not every, because there are so many cases of sexual assault where there's just no justice. People don't believe the victims, and the justice system fails, and there's just no, it's disappointing, and it's grueling for the people who have to go through that, because there's just so much hope that, hey, maybe this time the justice system won't fail. But it just continues to do so. Not just the justice system, but the social system of people not believing the victims. It's just, there's so many things messed up about the justice system and the social system on so many levels, and I'm speaking as a United States citizen, by the way. I'm sure there's plenty of trouble all over the world when it comes to justice. But the United States, yeesh. Sorry, that's a little more maybe darker than I meant to go with this, but hopefully the content warning at the beginning kind of covers it, that this book is about sexual assault, and it is about how that affects someone, in the aftermath. How nobody takes that person's side, except for very few people. And how whenever there's a Lewis out there who just, everybody knows how bad he is, nobody's gonna care if you bring up how bad he is, if they already know about those things. So it's really just the stuff that people don't know about, that you have to dredge up and show to the world. And even that sometimes doesn't work. I mean, look at our president. So, yeah. It's just unfortunate. So, if only life were more like, this book, where there actually is, justice in the end. But nope. Most cases just aren't like that. And I hate to sound pessimistic, but I do consider it as realism based on, or I consider myself realistic rather than optimistic or pessimistic, because I go based on patterns. I make assumptions, or rather I set up expectations in my head to prepare for what seems to be the pattern of how people behave. And while I hope for the better, I also don't expect it. And it's just stuff like situations like what's in this book that make me that way. And I swear some of the things that my family and friends have gone through, they could be in a soap opera with what their lives look like. I don't want anything to do with that, but it's insane. just because it feels like it, or rather the people in it feel like it. So I just hope that this book resonates with people the way it did with me, in a good way. And I hope it also makes people think and really consider more about how narratives are formed in actuality in real life. How narratives are formed, who's telling it, how trustworthy that is, and to maybe consider whether just consider mental health more, and consider how people might be covering up what's actually happening, because they get to tell the narrative, like if there's a Luis out there who is spreading these rumors and telling his side of the story, and he's popular and everybody likes him. Well, a lot of people like him. A lot of people respect his place in the high school food chain, I guess, is really a better way of putting it. Maybe just consider, what if maybe he's not explaining the situation as it actually happened, So, just stuff like that. Books like this bring up topics to consider like that. I think it's super important to just think on it. So, yeah. Alright, I'm trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to say. Nope, I guess I'll go ahead and leave it with that, huh? Alright, I hope this wasn't too much. I do try to... I feel like I keep going into, like, making things too real sometimes when talking about books, but at the same time, it's hard to keep books from being political or from being a reflection of reality, because they just are. And so I think when talking about them and how important they are, it's hard to leave out anything that relates to just how serious they can be. And so I hope that, like, these videos aren't too much of that, too stressful, I guess, and are more just, I guess, just whatever you want them to be. Yeah. So, yeah, the Luis Ortega Survival Club, or the Luis Ortega Survival Club, by Sonora Reyes. And I just realized I've been flipping Luis and Louis the whole time, haven't I? I didn't even pick one, I just went back and forth. Oh well. Yeah. I also really just like the stylized cover as well. I'm looking at it right now. And yeah, I can pinpoint each of the characters. I love that you can remember what they look like well enough based on just kind of their brief descriptions every so often, like Shawnee's braids, and how Nina would, like, dye their hair all the time, and I think also it was, like, mentioned Jasmine's short hair, and also her height, I believe, was also, like, brought up, and the way that I've lost her name, Ariana, main character Ariana, straightens her hair all the time. So you can pinpoint each one, and so it's cool. Angel isn't on the cover. Technically, though, he's like, well, I mean, he's part of the group, but he was there to support Jasmine, and so I think that's probably why he's not on the cover. That, and also it's a little harder to include 5 people with a lot of detail when you're drawing a cover like that. So I think they did real nice on the cover. But yeah. Okay. I said I'd try to, like, wind down from here. Anyhow, thank you for listening. Thank you so much for listening. Actually, you are a wonderful listener. And I hope that wherever you're going next, or whatever you're doing next, context, it's fun, relaxing, and or worthwhile. And ideally